Welcome to our coffee hour. We're helping someone figure out how to get inside.
No, you gotta come to the administration building.
Just get the phone.
Oh, this is mine. Hold on, wait, I'm giving it to your guy. Hold up.
All right.
Hey, if I can figure out how to get in, anybody can.
Okay, you all should win a prize because you all figured out how to get in, and we're all here. No, this is actually a really great building. So,
It is.
Okay, so we do these coffee hours several times throughout. Well, Team Chang does a coffee hour twice a month, and then Reverend Kitty and I love doing coffee hours together. So we've done so many together. This is great. So this is our opportunity to share some updates with you, and then really hear ideas and questions from you all. And before we go any further, we have a special guest joining us. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, I'm State Representative Mike McFall. I currently represent House District 8, which includes Madison Heights and Hazel Park, part of Detroit Highland Park. I'll soon be representing a new district. It'll have a new district number, House District 14. Still has Madison Heights and Hazel Park, but also comes into Warren and picks up Centerline. So very nice to meet you all.
So I'll share a couple of dates, and then Kitty will share a couple of dates, and then we'll hear from all of you. So 3 things that are on the top of my head. One, it's Drinking Water Week, so happy Drinking Water Week. Both of us have been working really hard on water affordability, and so we're going to use this week as an opportunity to try to highlight how important this issue is. But as many of you know, we have legislation that would help make sure that if you are low income, that you would get a water bill that you can actually afford. And so we have been working on that diligently for a long time, and building support. There have been a number of town halls. We had a town hall, some of you were there, and there's been a number of events throughout the state, and so we're just going to keep pushing on this issue until we get it done, because we are surrounded by fresh water, and everyone should have access to clean and safe and affordable water, no matter where you live in the state. So we have built a lot of great support around it. We actually do have some bipartisan support. We got to build up some more bipartisan support. And Rep. McFall is also involved in the water affordability package. So the three of us all are here. We're champions, and so happy Drinking Water Week. And then the second thing that is on the top of my brain is the Voting Rights Act. So we have a set of bills that is slowly beginning to move through the Senate Elections Committee. And so some of you probably know there is a federal Voting Rights Act that unfortunately our Supreme Court has gutted a little bit here and there. And so what is really, really necessary is for us to actually institute a state Voting Rights Act that reinstates a number of the provisions that the court gutted, and then also to build on it. So I'll just real quick highlights of what it is. One of the pieces is to ensure that every single city, if they're going to make any changes to their election law that might potentially have a disproportionate impact on communities of color, that they need to actually get pre-approval basically from the Secretary of State, so that there's another layer, like a check and a balance, to make sure that we aren't discriminating against voters based on who they are. And then I have a bill that is around language access, which would ensure that, so there actually is some language assistance that is in the Federal Voting Rights Act, but it doesn't go far enough and it does not include Arabic. And it also has like these really high thresholds that you have to meet in terms of the numbers of people in that area in order to require language access. So like in some of our areas, so it's 5% or 10,000 people, but in some places you might not necessarily meet that 10,000 threshold, but you might have like 5,000, but it's still a lot of people and they still need translated ballots. So anyway, so what we are doing is really increasing the number of jurisdictions who would be required to provide language access, but we would make it, we understand that clerks have a lot that they have to do, and so we would make it so the Secretary of State actually provides them with the translations and all of these materials. There's also a piece around voters with disabilities, which is basically making sure, so there's actually, I did not know this until this year, there's actually something that the Secretary of State already has some policies around, which allows for basically if you are someone who has some mobility issues, you can actually actually drive up and have the poll worker actually come to your car and pick up your ballot. You would still have to, sign everything and do all of that, but that way you don't actually have to get out of your car. I did not know that was a thing, but it is, and we should codify that into law so that regardless of who's Secretary of State in the future, that this will be in there. And then the other piece is around data collection, which is just around making sure that we actually would partner with a university to collect best practices and data around what clerks are doing around election practices, which is pretty non-controversial, I think, that one. So voting rights, water, and then, let's see, what was the third thing I was going to say? I can't remember now. So I'll get into it for McKinney.
You'll probably remember. A couple of things that come to mind. As you guys know, I sit on the House Appropriations Committee. It is budget season as we speak. My team and I, we've been in numerous meetings, my lord. So many dang on meetings. And I have to really stress, this budget is a little different from last year's budget. All those federal COVID dollars that came in, the ARPA dollars, we spent in last year's budget that came online as we speak right now. But this year's budget is a little bit tighter just because our governor, Gretchen Whitmer, she wants some big ticket items, and we're going to be negotiating, trying to figure out how to get some more dollars to sustain the programs we have funded in last year's term, or last year. Just to paint the picture for you guys, I think last year we had about over 2,000 funding requests. We're up to over 7,000. Because last year we came to the state, organization came, we were more than likely able to fund your initiative. And so people realized the state was cutting checks, and this is all because of Democrats holding the majority in the trifecta, first time in 40 years. People have hope in Lansing. There's sunny days now in Lansing. And so for a long time, and it's sad to say, but for a long time, people have been neglected. And we were able to put money where people actually needed it. And so we, you guys already noticed we rolled back the pension tax, the senior tax, that was implemented about 13 years ago when the Republicans took the trifecta in 2011. They did that to try to put a big tax cut on the wealthy, and they did it on the backs of our seniors. And so we were able to overturn that, put a 4-year phase in, and so that's also a big budget item. Another thing we're trying to work on and the governor wants to push is universal pre-K, which is absolutely necessary, and other states are doing it, why not Michigan? Some of the things that we're also working on in the budget is a caregiver tax credit. This is something that's needed because all of us, no matter how old, it's hard to take care of a loved one. Whether they're older or younger, I have 2 kids myself, a 2-year-old and a newborn, but we also take care of my great-grandmother, and we each take days in my family to take care of our loved ones. And you should be able to get some dollars for that because you have to take off work, or you can be doing anything else in the world, but you're taking care of your loved one. And so we want to make sure you guys get a little bit of reprieve for that. Besides budget items, some policy things that we were able to get across, the governor signed our bill last month, is May now, in April, and our bill, which co-alongside with Rep. Jen Hill and Rep. Sharon McDonald. Jen Hill's out of Marquette in the UP. Sharon McDonald's out of Oakland County, Troy area. We had a package of bills that are pretty much eliminated what the Snyder administration put in, which is like the Environmental Rules Committee. It might sound pretty good, but in reality it was really harmful. This committee was set up for industry to pretty much put a stopgap or withhold EGLE for administrating their rules. And so a lot of times the lead and copper rule that you guys probably already heard of, is really a big thing. They were able to slow that down for over a year. EGLE is the state level EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. That's what EGLE is, the Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, or I'm on their co-chair of that committee. And they're kind of like the state environmental watchdog. And so we were able to do that, and the governor agreed, and she signed that bill. Another bill that passed the House last fall, it passed the Senate last month maybe. It's a 33-3 super bipartisan bill. It was my bill, House Bill 5103. What it does is, essentially, if you're unlicensed, I talked about this in past coffee hours, if you're unlicensed and you receive 2 or more moving violations, and anybody knows who got pulled over, you can receive 2 or more moving violations in 1 traffic stop. And so, after you get everything paid for, your tickets paid for, everything adjudicated in the court, because you were unlicensed at the time, you have to wait 3 additional years. That's what state law says. 3 additional years to petition the state in order to receive your license. And how this came about was we had a constituent of ours write to us or call our office and said, hey, Rep, I just got out of prison. I went straight to get my CDL license and took my classes. I was ready to go to Secretary of State, get everything situated and, get my license. And they stopped me and told me I couldn't do it. And they flagged something when I was 17. I'm like, what did you do? He was like, I got 2 moving violations on 1 traffic stop, and I didn't have a license at the time. And so this legislation, it eliminates that 3-year waiting period. And that's what's going on in a lot of our rules or laws that are on the books. There's a lot of draconian, outdated laws that need to be updated or stricken out. And I'm so glad because this law is literally going to impact over 1 million people in our state. And it's not like we have mass transit that we can kind of rely on. We're working on that. But this is, Transit Caucus too. Mike McFall started a Transit Caucus that me and Senator Chang are a part of. But these are just the humiliating things and life-crushing things for somebody. You're impacting somebody's livelihood because of this. So we were glad to get that done. We're going to have a big ceremonial signing in the next couple of weeks, so I'll let you guys know on that. But besides that, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I want to hear from you guys what's going on. And then we got some redistricting updates that we want to update you guys later on in the conversation.
I remember one thing.
Oh, okay, go ahead. I knew you was going to remember.
Okay. So there's been a lot of national attention around IVF. And so in Michigan, what we did just recently was, actually maybe this is, I'm losing track of time, so I don't remember how long ago this was, but we just recently passed legislation called the Michigan Family Protection Act. So this is crazy. Okay, so I did not know this until last year, but prior to this law being signed, it was illegal to be a surrogate or to use a surrogate. And obviously there's a lot of folks who have infertility challenges. I think a lot of us want to ensure that people are able to start families if they want to have a family. And then also there's same-sex couples who maybe want to use a surrogate or use other, there just needs to be lots of options that are available to people who want to start a family. But we had actually had this law in the books for a long time, actually making it a criminal violation to use surrogate, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we changed that. We passed the Michigan Family Protection Act, which basically ensures that yes, you can actually have a surrogate. You can have a contract. You can put in there's lots of protections in the contract for both the intended parent and the surrogate. The surrogate would be able to make all their reproductive health decisions. The intended parent. So get this. This is the other crazy thing. So in the past, what happened was that if you were the person who was I want to work with this surrogate to have my baby, and the baby is born, unfortunately, the way that it had worked previously was that the person who gave birth, it was the name on the birth certificate, and then the intended parent, whose baby it was always meant to be, would have to go through this really arduous process that included a home visit and a background check and all this stuff, just to be able to adopt the baby that was always intended to be their baby. So we got rid of all that and just made it so that now you can have surrogacy is legal. It's no longer illegal, and sets out the process for creating a contract, and then sets in place a number of protections for all parties, including having a lawyer and all of that. So that's really big news because we know that these opportunities to start a family are being threatened in other states. And thankfully, Michigan is moving forward instead of backward on this issue. So.